When Warren Moon left the University of Washington, he had already proven he was worth real NFL money. He was the Rose Bowl MVP, a poised passer, a locker room leader, and one of the most polished quarterbacks in college football. On paper, he looked like a first round investment, a player you draft early, build around, and pay like the face of your franchise. But in the late 1970s and early 1980s, the NFL scouting machine did not evaluate Warren Moon through performance alone. It evaluated him through racial perception. Quarterback was seen as a thinking position, a leadership role reserved for athletes the league culturally associated with whiteness. Black players could be explosive runners, receivers, return men, or corners, but not trusted offensive architects. And because NFL management systematically believed that teams refused to draft one of the most NFL ready quarterbacks in the country, that refusal wasn't just an insult, it was an economic loss. From 1978 to 1982, even an average rookie quarterback would have earned guaranteed NFL income through salary, signing bonus, and development pay. In that era, quarterbacks taken early could expect 300 to 600,000 in total earnings over their first 4 seasons, which in 2025 purchasing power translates to roughly 900,000 to $1.8 million guaranteed before ever winning a starting job. Warren Moon received none of this because racial perception blocked financial valuation. He didn't just lose early salary, he lost early leverage. And in quarterback economics, leverage is everything. It determines when extensions happen, when renegotiations start, when endorsement value compounds, and when a player enters the high income earning cycles that define long term NFL wealth. Warren Moon didn't enter those cycles until the NFL finally admitted he could play, years later, after Canada had already proven it for them. And those missing years created a financial gap no later contract could fully erase. After the NFL refused to draft Warren Moon, his financial path diverged completely from what any elite quarterback should have experienced. Instead of entering the NFL's economic pipeline, which guarantees years of salary, developmental investment, and renegotiation leverage, Moon went to the Canadian Football League. For him, Canada wasn't a detour. It was the only marketplace that would treat him like a starting quarterback instead of a discounted backup. In the late 1970s and early 1980s, NFL backups commonly made between 40 and 70,000 per year, which in 2025 dollars equals roughly 120 to $210,000. Those salaries came with no leadership belief, no consistent playing time, and no pathway to early renegotiation. Moon would not accept that. CFL earnings were not publicly itemized year to year, but historical reporting confirms that Moon made substantially more in Canada than he ever would have made if he had entered the NFL as a backup. While CFL salaries were smaller than NFL superstar money, they recognized Moon as a starter, not a clipboard holder. Some estimates suggest his early Canadian seasons could have rivaled or exceeded the total base earnings of a mid tier NFL quarterback, enough to secure stability and dignity for a player the NFL labeled not trustworthy to lead. Here is the economic gap. Had Moon been drafted in 1978 as a true franchise quarterback, he could have earned $300 to $600,000 over his first 4 NFL seasons, the equivalent of $900,000 to $1.8 million in 2025 value before endorsements, escalators, or postseason bonuses. Instead, those dollars never materialized. Warren Moon didn't just lose money, he lost NFL leverage cycles. Every drafted quarterback gets early contract renegotiation windows, early endorsement access, and early leadership marketability. Moon didn't receive any of those because a black quarterback with elite ability simply wasn't granted the economic runway his performance deserved. Those 6 missing years created a permanent financial delay, and that delay would shape every dollar Warren Moon earned afterward, even when he finally became the highest paid player in the NFL. Because the NFL didn't reward Moon for potential, it only paid him after racial doubt was defeated. When Warren Moon finally entered the NFL in 1984 with the Houston Oilers, the negotiation dynamics were unlike anything the league had ever seen. The Oilers weren't just competing against other NFL franchises, they were competing against the financial respect Moon already built in Canada. For the first time in NFL history, a team had to pay a black quarterback like a proven commodity, not a hesitant experiment. Moon signed a reported 5-year, $5.5 million deal, including a massive $4.5 million signing bonus, an unheard of number for the era. That contract instantly made Moon one of the highest paid players in professional football. But to understand the real financial magnitude, we must convert those numbers into 2025 value. A 5.5 million deal in the mid 1980s equals roughly $16.5 million today. And Moon's average annual earnings of about 1.1 million per year translate to approximately 3.3 million per year in modern purchasing power. That was historic. And yet, even that monumental contract came with a delayed truth. Warren Moon was finally being paid like a premier starter long after he had already produced at that level. His mega contract was not a reward for new potential, it was a correction of past undervaluation. For Moon, this deal was validation. For the NFL, it was an uncomfortable admission that the league had misvalued a generational quarterback because of racial assumptions. And those assumptions came with real financial consequences. But the economic story doesn't stop at conversion math. If Moon had entered the NFL 6 years earlier as a drafted quarterback, his first renegotiation window would have occurred earlier, his endorsement value would have grown faster, and his compounding wealth cycle would have doubled. He wouldn't have been a millionaire for the first time in 1984. He could have been one in 1978. Instead, Moon's money came late. He became one of the highest paid players in football only because he forced markets to believe what college film already proved. And the next contract would show how much delayed belief really cost him. By 1989, Warren Moon was no longer a question mark. He was one of the most productive passers in football, orchestrating one of the NFL's most explosive offenses and redefining the modern aerial game. His performance forced the league to remove the word experiment from its vocabulary. And for the second time in his career, the money finally reflected the truth. Moon signed a 5-year, $10 million extension, including a $1 million signing bonus, making him the highest paid player in professional football. That headline mattered. Not the highest paid black quarterback, not the highest paid quarterback, the highest paid player. In 1989, that contract felt revolutionary. It validated Moon's brain, leadership, intelligence, and passing mastery, qualities the NFL once insisted a black quarterback couldn't possess. But when you convert those numbers into modern purchasing power, the financial picture shifts dramatically. A $10 million contract in 1989 equates to roughly $30 million in 2025 value, and Moon's adjusted annual average becomes approximately $6 million per year in today's terms. $6 million per year sounds substantial until you compare it to the economics of 2025, where elite quarterbacks routinely earn $40 to $55 million annually with fully guaranteed multi year structures and life changing leverage. That gap reveals the truth behind this celebration. Yes, Moon was the highest paid player of his era, but only after the league spent years denying him access to the NFL salary cycles. Had the NFL valued Moon immediately after college, he could have earned starter money years earlier, renegotiated years earlier, and hit extension cycles at a much younger age, giving him multiplicative, not linear wealth accumulation. Instead of growing inside the NFL's compounding wealth system beginning at age 22, Moon entered that system closer to 28, a financial delay no record breaking extension could erase. In other words, Warren Moon wasn't paid early like a franchise quarterback, he was paid late like a correction. And inside the fine print of NFL contract structure, delayed belief is delayed wealth. By the time Warren Moon retired, public records estimate that he earned roughly $37 to $40 million in total NFL salary, not including endorsements or off-field work. Adjusted into 2025 purchasing power, that becomes roughly $90 to $100 million in modern value. On the surface, those numbers seem impressive for a quarterback who was once denied a draft slot entirely. But NFL money isn't just about totals, it's about timing, compounding, and leverage windows. Quarterbacks who enter the league as drafted starters get four economic benefits that Warren Moon did not. Number one, early guaranteed salaries. Number two, early endorsement value. Number 3, early renegotiation cycles. And number 4, early extension leverage. Combine those four forces, and a quarterback's wealth doesn't grow linearly, it grows exponentially. A quarterback drafted at age 22 can hit his first extension around 24 or 25, his second around 28 to 29, and potentially free agency at 30 to 31, all while accumulating brand value, playoff incentives, and legacy endorsements. Warren Moon's wealth curve never had that acceleration. He didn't enter the NFL economic engine until age 28. His first major contract hit late, his endorsements scaled late, and his compounding cycles began when most elite quarterbacks were already on their second or third major deal. Had Moon started at age 22 as a drafted starter with equivalent on field production, his lifetime career earnings, including inflation adjusted value, extension cycles, postseason incentives, and endorsement power, could easily have exceeded $150 to $200 million in 2025 value, possibly more if his leadership profile elevated playoff success in a large US market. Instead, Moon earned roughly half of what his skill justified, not because of a lack of performance, but because of a 6 year delay that no record setting contracts could erase. For Warren Moon, the greatest financial injustice was not what he made, it was what he never had the chance to make, simply because NFL executives refused to believe a black quarterback could do what he later proved was elite. And that is the legacy hidden inside the fine print. The NFL never undervalued Warren Moon's talent, it undervalued him before it ever paid him. Warren Moon did something extraordinary. He didn't just prove he could play quarterback at the highest level, he proved he could reshape the economics of the position itself. Moon forced the NFL to revalue what it once dismissed, and yet, even after becoming the highest paid player of his era, his greatest financial story isn't the contracts he signed, it's the wealth he never had the chance to earn. The NFL's early refusal to treat Warren Moon like a legitimate quarterback didn't just change his career path, it reshaped his lifetime earnings, delayed his leverage, and reduced compounding value that no late contract could ever replace. Moon earned millions, but he should have earned more, not through favoritism, but through timing belief and access to the same economic runway granted to white quarterbacks with lesser resumes. This is the financial legacy the game rarely acknowledges. If you want more cinematic breakdowns of how black NFL players were financially undervalued by design, make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel Old School Sundays, and I'll see you soon with more football history.